Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network, World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Great to have you all here. Hello, Maverick family. Trump has a meltdown. He's using words like sedition. He is calling for the death penalty. Yes, wishing death upon his political enemies. We'll dig into the details. Also, markets not in the best of shape. Declining. Crypto. Crash continues. Hate to say it, but I told you so. But we'll see how much I told you so. We'll see if it continues to decline even further, as some are predicting. We have a terrorist, or an alleged terrorist, who attempted to stab somebody near Gaza, identified by Israel, who they're saying left the Canadian Army just 12 days before the attack. And I don't think anybody here in Canada is making any kind of news with that at all. But it's there also. The CDC has adopted RFK Jr. anti-vaccine info and has now made a major change to the CDC website. We'll show you what that's all about too. Oh, and some interesting developments on the Canada-US trade front and diplomatic front as calls begin to ramp up for the expulsion of America's diplomat to Canada, America's ambassador, Mr. Hoekstra. Not very popular with some people up here in Kanakistan. So stay with me. We have a lot to unpack tonight. And I will return right after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're back. I just have to say, things really just don't feel right. They really just don't feel right. I that's about as scientific as I can get with that. Maybe you understand what I mean. I guess it's like the decline of the United States. That's at the center of it. This managed decline. Now, there's a phrase that was always directed at the Democrats. Rush Limbaugh used to direct that at Obama. And then you heard it, from time to time with Biden. But this Trump administration, this is truly some sort of strange, I think even unintentional, maybe, if you really believe in evil things, it could be an intentional managed decline of the U.S. empire. It doesn't feel right because you have the world leader, the superpower, like the number one superpower in the world, losing its position and voluntarily ceding territory, ceding ground, if you will, internationally, just pulling back in, pulling its horns in. If you want to phrase it, well, maybe you don't. It just came out. Pulling its horns in makes it sound aggressive and evil, doesn't it? And at times, the United States has been aggressive, and you could even argue evil when engaged in certain wars. But I never really viewed the United States in that light at all. I was always a huge defender of the U.S. I always saw the United States as that shining city on a hill, a beacon of hope for democracy and freedom all around the world. Always did. And a bastion of, if not free markets, freer markets, and aspired to be the capitalistic free market nation, at least in my mind. I like to think of it that way. There's no economy in the world that's actually truly free market. Every economy is a hybrid of the different systems, even in China. It's a mercantilist type economy. It combines free markets with communism and extreme socialism, extreme government control on the one hand, and yet at the same time, internationally, they do trade, and it's very capitalistic. So I don't know if there's a lot of difference between countries, but there's certainly a difference in the air right now with Trump and the U.S. and the way that they're approaching, especially international politics. To a lot of people, it doesn't make sense. To me, I think it makes sense when I look at it through this lens of Duginism and Neo-Eurasianism and populism, this new, I call it, well, you can really call it neo-populism, and this attempt to bring the left and the right together, like the extremes on the left and the right, and then pull a bunch of people in from the center, closer to the center area as well. I called it communofascism for a long time. Some people call it MAGA communism. The impact or the effect is the same. But this bombing of boats off the coast of Venezuela, the disregard for international laws, the we're going to do whatever the hell we want attitude, it gives rise to real concern. And a lot of people don't understand why he's doing this. To me, it's because he's participating with the other superpower leaders to carve the world up into spheres of, some say influence, I would say dominance. And the theory is that these nations will respect the borders where the great powers meet internationally. But it's unlikely. It's already showing cracks. I've said from the time I became aware of the great plan, don't trust the plan. It's not good. Because I see right through it. I see that it is inevitable. It's a foregone conclusion that if you go down this path of rejecting your traditional allies and then trying to forge some sort of a truce with your international political adversaries, it's inevitable that it leads to conflict and probably to war, because all the other smaller nation states, they're going to do whatever they have to do to try to survive. And some of these smaller countries or less powerful countries aren't that innocuous. They're not or benign. They're some of them are lethal. And you don't need to be as big and as powerful as the United States or Russia or China or as powerful to be a real problem. You can make it very difficult for someone to take you over. It may still happen because you're not strong enough to ultimately defeat the intruder, but you can make it very painful, very, very costly, both in terms of blood and treasure. I've kind of gotten off the beaten path. The point is that Trump, he seems a little bit crazy. And yet, if you look at it from the perspective I just presented, it makes sense because he's after everything from Panama to Greenland. But even today, and this is also why it doesn't feel right, like none of this, I don't agree with any of this carving up the world stuff. I think it's insane and unnecessary, especially for the United States. Beneficial for Russia, maybe even China. The United States doesn't need to do it. And in fact, it's an impediment. It puts the U.S. Back into a corner. It hurts the economy. And it's going to make it very difficult for the United States to pay off that $38 trillion debt. They're trying to sell a lot of those F-35s to help pay for that. But what happens today is he's out there and he posts on Truth Social this because he had some Democrats say, hey, don't, encouraging the military to not follow certain, what they would characterize as unlawful orders. So here, take a look. Let's bring up Truth Social. We're going to start with our Truth Social scroll tonight, eh? Okay, let's go back here first. So there's the Trump page. And this is his response, which is making headlines everywhere tonight. Seditious behavior punishable by death. A lot of capital letters in there, Mr. Trump. Seditious behavior punishable by death. And he's referring to this here, this article in the Washington Examiner. This is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up. President DJT. Okay, so let's take a look at the report that he's specifically referring to in his Truth Social posts. There it is. This is the version on the on the Washington Examiner. Democratic veterans in Congress urge service members to refuse unspecified unlawful orders. A half dozen veterans in Congress, it says here, released a joint video urging U.S. service members to disobey unlawful orders, though they did not specify what those would be. It lists the people in question who said the threats to our Constitution are coming, quote, from right here at home. They repeatedly urged military and intelligence personnel to refuse illegal orders. It's interesting because I've seen the same kind of rhetoric come from the MAGA side and the Q side and the Queen Romana, the dildo side and the sovereign citizen side and the freedom fighters side. We want accountability. And hey, police officers at this protest that we are protesting at, you should turn in your badge, turn your back on your oath to the police service and join us in this protest to save the you-know-whats. The article goes on and says Trump blasts seditious Democratic veterans punishable by death. We are standing by our troops Our service members were often put in very difficult positions, and Donald Trump has put them in very difficult positions and has alluded to putting them in even more difficult positions in the months and years ahead. So we are reminding folks about what the Uniform Code of Military Justice says, what the Constitution says, what the law of war says. This is coming from, who's that quote? Crow. Who also cited President Donald Trump's musings during his first term about whether service members should shoot U.S. protesters in the leg. So Trump sort of had a meltdown here on social media, Truth Social, because of that viral video. And I think maybe I have it here. I don't know if I have the original or not. I have a reaction from those people identified by Trump, some of them. Here, let's go. I have to go over to Twitter to show you. And the Dems are having their own meltdown tonight, because this is ammo for them. Okay, so here we go. I believe this is the video. So let's take a look.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
Who take risks each day
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
But from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
In the Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
And who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
And that pissed Donald Trump off in the worst way. But I've heard it back the other way too. And there he is tonight saying those people should potentially face the death penalty. See, this is why things don't feel right, because this is not the America that I always thought I knew. America has changed. This is a country in decline, managed or otherwise. And you could make all kinds of arguments about whether it's managed, whether it's just happening, whether it's being intentionally sabotaged by somebody who has some strange other agenda, a hidden agenda, maybe. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's definitely a nation in decline. It is. Trump will sit there and say that America is respected again. No, it isn't. It is not. It's feared. People are afraid of him. Other world leaders are afraid of Donald Trump. And that's not the America that I thought I knew. Certainly with Reagan, the whole concept of peace through strength was front and center. And with that, there was always that element of fear. But that wasn't the prevailing message that was sent out to the world. America was always a country of invitation. The West as a whole, as a result of that approach, was all about invitation. Join us, become part of the free world. We're not going to invade you, to force you to do it. At least we're not supposed to. That's the ideal. And because there had the Western system, the free markets work so well, the capitalist system, because it produced so much affluence, countries wanted to join. Those former Soviet Union countries wanted to join the West so they could participate and become part of the prosperity. But it only works when that bright, shining city on a hill has its lights on and is full of energy and hope, so that the beacon can be seen all around the world. Donald Trump has tarnished all of that. He's adorned it in gold. He's decorated the Oval Office with gold. His new ballroom is going to be adorned with gold. And he sits in his office and he gets presents. I mean, you want to end the trade war between Canada and the US? All you have to do is just go down and take some expensive gifts to Trump, and he'll go easy on you. You're seeing it time and time and time again, whether it's the jet from Qatar, or who was it that gave him the gold bar? Like a straight up gold bar. It said with 45 and 47 imprinted in it. Was it Switzerland? I can't remember. Anyway, it happened. What's he going to do with that? And, he can't really do anything with it because he's not really allowed to accept gifts personally. So they give it to the Trump library. So it will eventually end up in the Trump library. It's a gift to him, but he's not supposed to accept direct gifts. So they do it that way. Even that jet from Qatar, that's a gift to the library, but it's going to fly. It's not going to be used to put books in and for public tours, not yet. And then he is actually enriching himself too, to the tune of billions of dollars, because his family fronts his meme coin, the Trump meme coin. And there was a classic pump and dump. Have you looked at the graph on that? I'm off in the weeds again, but I don't care because it's relevant. And maybe everybody needs to take a look. Let's take a look at the Trump meme coin. Here's a chart. Just look at what happened to the price of Trump meme coin. I'm going to show you. This is a pump and dump. This is a scheme. This is a scam. This is the president of the free. This is the leader of the free world. And he did this to people. Well, look at this. This is not Bitcoin. Okay. This is the Trump meme coin. So he offers this thing up. This is 1 year. We'll go to all time. Okay. So starts off in January 18th, 2025. Okay. So it's an initial offering of, I don't know how much it was, but in any event, it goes from zero right up to, because of all the hype, $45.47, and they sell $30.1 billion in of volume in 24 hours because they promoted it so much, because he uses the bully pulpit as a promotional platform. And it dips a little bit. So it goes to the next day, it drops to 36.96, 23 billion in volume. And then it goes back up the next day to $44. But then since then, this is back on January 21st, it's just been nothing but decline, like tiny little blips up as it makes its way down. Look, way down. So today it is at, what's the price? $6.68. 24-hour volume, 384.5 million. Not trading as much. But do you see what's happened here? A lot of hype, skyrockets in just 24 hours, $30 billion in volume. Who do you think is profiting from that? Well, there's a name right on it. And it starts with a T. And so within a couple of days, he goes from zero to like 30 billion taken in. And so a huge portion of that would be directly available. And then it declines because you take that money in, and what do you do with it? You dump it and you convert it back into cash. That's a pump and dump, man. So yeah, that's what he did. Gonna be a while before he gets back to 44 or $45 for a Trump meme coin. And the only thing that backs up any kind of cryptocurrency is belief. People who support it, people who believe in it. There's no gold. It's like not on the gold standard or anything like that. There's some altcoins out there that do incorporate things like other currencies or gold in the background to give them some stability and some air of legitimacy. But no, even Bitcoin, it's just completely based on faith and adaptability. Anyway, I digress. Where was I? Oh yeah. It just blows my mind. And oh yeah, plus you can buy a Trump watch too. Not me. A little overpriced for what they are. In my opinion. So yeah, the Dems not happy about any of that. And here's Chuck Schumer earlier today. Commenting. I mean, I've seen Chuck Schumer lie his ass off too. This is the other reason things don't feel right, because I just see bad stuff on all sides. I don't really see anybody taking the lead out there on doing what's right. It's about scoring political points and just defeating your political enemies and doing whatever it takes to get that done. Give them no ground. Give your opponents no ground.
Earlier today, Donald Trump shared a post on Truth Social calling for Democratic members of Congress to be hanged. He also posted a message that said, seditious behavior, punishable by death. Let's be crystal clear. The President of the United States is calling for the execution of elected officials. Earlier today.
And I hate to say it, but it's true. And I hate to tell you, because a lot of you are going to have your own little meltdowns when I say this, but you're just going to have to freaking deal with it. The Democrats have the moral high ground on this one. Trump's way out of line. Now there's an editorial for you. But it's true. It's true. This is why things don't feel right. Let's go back up here. Here's Alyssa Slotkin responding to the president of what used to be the great United States, but right now maybe not quite so great, because I would say with the political environment and the way the government, the actual government in charge, is acting, it's more like a third-rate dictatorship run by a tin pot dictator in a banana republic thing. Let's listen to this.
President, I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin, senator from Michigan, former CIA officer. Earlier today, President Trump threatened myself and a number of other service and veteran lawmakers with arrest, trial, and death because he didn't agree with a video we put out this week. This really isn't about those of us who made the video. This is about who we are as Americans and how we're going to engage with people who we disagree with. I would hope that people of all backgrounds, Democrat, Republican, Independent, would agree that threatening death for people you disagree with is beyond the pale of who we are as Americans. I love this country. It has given me everything, everything. And I refuse to believe that this is the new normal. I refuse to believe that we're going to use fear and intimidation against people we disagree with. And I'm not going to be forced away from speaking up on behalf of my country. I swore an oath to the Constitution many times, most recently less than a year ago as a senator. To the Constitution, not to any one man, not to any one president. And I abide by that oath. For me, I believe in the power of this country and that we are better than our current politics represent. And I refuse to be intimidated out of defending the country I love.
You want to know another little piece of truth? Well, no, Rick, don't tell me. Yeah, if you don't want it, close your ears, because you might not be able to handle it. Some of you won't be able to handle this. Okay, you ready? Do you have your ears plugged? Don't listen. Don't listen to what I'm about to say. Trump and the U.S. system allows this, has facilitated it. Trump has way more autocratic power than any king today. Certainly way more power than King Charles. I hear you guys out there who want to rip the heart out of Canada, and you say, you gotta decouple from the monarchy and screw the king, and it's all a scam because the Canadian system, they all answer to the king. No. You have a bunch of frickin' lying morons who tell you shit like that, and it's not frickin' true. Because the king doesn't write the legislation or create the laws. The King of England simply gives royal assent to passed bills that become law, as long as proper process was followed. He's there to protect the system of democracy because he's actually there representing the people through what is called a corporation soul, but not like a corporation like Burger King. It's a corporation soul. You don't buy shares in it in the stock market. It's a corporation so that it can continue through time with the transfer of power going from one king or queen to the next heir. And the corporation soul continues to function, exist as its own legal entity. But the king has very limited power, and all those trappings of wealth don't belong to the king. They belong to the corporation soul. And so the gold that you see in Buckingham Palace and the crown and the throne and even that fancy dancy carriage that you see them riding around in for, even that visit with Donald Trump, doesn't belong to the king. It belongs to the corporation soul. What's a corporation? Corp, body, corporation, bringing it together. It's a body of the people, for the people. Us people, and those people over there. All the people of the Commonwealth. All the countries that choose to remain part of it. Because if you want to decouple, you don't even have to go to war to do it, even though everybody wants to. That's because they're idiots. And they've been lied to, or they're just lying to you because they prefer violence. You don't need to do that. If you really want to just disconnect, all you have to do is ask. And they'll let us go. And in many respects, Canada already has, because we used to be under essentially the, there was like a security guarantee in place with England for Canada. But over time, that changed. And certainly, after World War II, it really changed. And so that security guarantee eventually started to come from the United States, which if you go back to the 1700s, the 1800s, it wasn't really quite like that, because the United States in those times was something of a threat to Canada because there was so much foreign meddling in the Canadian affairs. Even before we were a full-fledged country, or an evolving country, a maturing country, going from, a small seedling of a country to what we've become today. And we continue to evolve and become a more substantial player internationally as we grow. This whole country, Canada, is really set up to avoid war and conflict. We're a country of conciliation, of compromise, of cooperation, not conquest. Not like the United States or Russia, because we've never aspired to be a great military power. We work with other countries and collaborate. That's another way to have peace through strength, the strength of multilateralism, in order to preserve your national sovereignty, not to bend the knee or cede your sovereignty to other nations because you become part of a multilateral agreement. That's not the intent, nor is that stuff really ultimately binding, because it's not ingrained in your constitution. Although, if you have an idiot for a prime minister, like Mr. Trudeau, he might unilaterally have his government give up some power and cede some sovereignty to the United Nations through the intentional and legislated integration, a unilateral decision to integrate that into the Canadian legal system, which didn't have to happen. And UNDRIP itself was not legally binding, but whatever, man. Now look where we're at in the land claims and the land acknowledgements, giving credibility to those land claims that now it looks like maybe puts private property ownership at risk. I don't know where that's all going to go. I don't think it's going to result in people actually losing their houses ultimately. It'll end up in court and maybe in conflict. Worse. Those First Nations pushing that stuff, they should be very, very careful, because, well, it looks like they're going to get more. They might end up with a whole heap and helping a less if they're not respectful, and if they don't engage in cooperation and conciliation and compromise. And I think that they will, because largely they're pretty level-headed. Not so much on the MAGA side, not these days. It's on full display tonight. Donald Trump wants to hang his political opponents, and he just says it outright. This is the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world. This is a guy who has a red button, and if he goes like that, the world comes to an end. That's how powerful he is. F-35s, stealth bombers, most powerful military in the world, or so we're told. Nukes, private companies like SpaceX and Starlink and satellite surveillance, and knows everything you say, everything you do, everything you think. They're that powerful. They control the private social media companies, so they're right inside your brain. That makes, and then he's so irresponsible, so childish, and so self-centered that he makes statements like the ones he made tonight, which just, it's over the top. And if you run an ad that he doesn't like, he slaps an extra 10% tariff on you and says no trade deals for you. And the reason he was upset is because the ad that Ontario ran with the speech from Ronald Reagan was accurate, and it was embarrassing to him, and it exposed Trump's lies because Reagan was a free trader. And Reagan on the Republican and conservative side, very, very influential, especially today, because he is on a pedestal, sitting up on that bright, shining city on a hill. He's the guy who came up with the whole idea of the bright, shining city on a hill. He's one of the greatest presidents in American history, not Donald Trump. He wants you to think of it that way, so he couldn't let it pass. He couldn't let that truth get out there, so he had to get right on Truth Social and Truth Out and tell everybody, hey, Doug Ford, that Ontario premier, he's a dick. He lied. He edited Reagan's comments and took it all out of context. No, he didn't. And then he even went so far as to suggest that it may have been artificial intelligence. And some people picked up on that and they ran with it too. And I hear people even now, still right now, even today, believing that and repeating it on social media because the lie continues to run around the world and the truth is still having trouble getting its sneakers tied up. I don't even know if I don't even think those sneakers are laced up yet. How do you catch all these lies? And he's the king of lies. Oh, he's a king, all right. He has more power than King Charles because he just signs new laws into existence with his Sharpie and just declares that it's no longer the Gulf of Mexico. From here on in, henceforth, it shall be by decree the Gulf of America. It's not real. It's a lie, but he just makes it up and therefore makes it real. Forces everyone to accept it. And if you don't fall into line, there will be punishment. You will be expelled from the White House. No more media conferences for you, Associated Press. You must call it the Gulf of America. Well, that's not garnering respect. That's instilling fear. That's not being respectful. That's being arrogant as hell. So Donald Trump, he may be getting gifts in the White House, even gold bars for the gold president and his golden age. But I'll tell you this, those who come bearing gifts are smiling to his face, but have no respect for him when they leave, even if they are from smaller nation states. They view him as a small man who can be bought. You can buy that guy with a gold bar. which really in itself doesn't have any really much use, and he can't do anything with it except look at it. But it shouldn't be a symbol of anything positive. It's not a symbol of power. It's not a symbol of respect. It makes him a laughingstock. And it diminishes America. It tarnishes that gold bar. It dims the light coming from the bright, shining city on a hill. It's gaudy and gross. It's disgusting. And it's soaked in blood. The blood from a peace president, self-proclaimed, who has now killed more than 80 people by firing missiles into boats. $80 people. And we don't even have their names. Were they up to no good? Maybe, probably. Was every single person up to no good? Probably not. Did he kill some innocent people? Probably. Is that okay? No, it's not. Because every drop of innocent, nameless blood stains, tarnishes, and dims. It's revolting, and I'm disgusted.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm also incredibly disappointed because I have to confess I was for a long time a huge Trump fan because I viewed him as being Reagan-esque, as being more free market oriented, as being a conservative, but he's not. And he's not acting like it's conservative now. And his true colors, or maybe his new colors, are showing. And is he justifying this because he got shot in the ear? And therefore it's the anger from that justify. I don't know. But nothing justifies what he's been doing and what he continues to do. It just doesn't. You want a steady hand at the wheel, man, not some wild card who's up there whose greatest strength is insulting people. I'm tired of it. It was amusing for a while because it was kind of like, yeah, you know, those Democrats and the liberals, they take things too far. You know, the sexual content in schools, that's way too far for me. I don't care about the other stuff, but there's no place for it in schools. Any kind of, you know, I can get into this stuff, but there are limits, right? And so when he started to push back on some of that stuff, it was like, yeah, I'm there, but I'm not here. because this is just way too deep, down too far into the abyss. He's become something dark. Maybe this is all because of the Epstein files. Maybe maybe he's that desperate to stop them from coming out, even though he has now signed the paperwork approving the release of them. But will it really happen? I don't know. I don't know. Some people are speculating that the files may have been purged. Some things destroyed at this point. I wouldn't be surprised. When you get into this nitty-gritty, you start wading around in deep in the swamp, you're going to get your feet wet. You start doing stuff like blowing up boats rather than board them and arrest people for drug trafficking. And yeah, you have your allies who start to withhold intelligence from you, Canada, the UK, and others. Say, I don't know, we're not going to participate in that, Mr. Trump, because it's illegal. And we're not going to come right out and say that because you're so powerful that we don't want to get you too upset, and we still need you on side to ensure that we have stability and security for the Western world. But yeah, we can't participate in that. It's a bridge too far. Top military lawyer on NBC News, this headline, top military lawyer raised legal concerns about boat strikes. The lawyer at U.S. Southern Command, which oversees the operations against alleged drug smuggling boats near Venezuela, disagreed that the strikes are legal and was overruled, according to 6 sources. The senior military lawyer for the combatant command overseeing lethal strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats near Venezuela disagreed with the Trump administration's position that the operations are lawful, and his views were sidelined, according to 6 sources with knowledge of the legal advice. The lawyer, who serves as the Senior Judge Advocate General, or JAG in military parlance, at U.S. Southern Command in Miami, raised his legal concerns in August, before the strikes began in September, according to 2 senior U.S. officials, 2 senior congressional aides, and 2 former senior U.S. officials. It says here that his opinion was finally overruled by senior government officials, including some at the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel. Other JAGs and military lawyers at various levels of seniority weighed in on the boat strikes too, and it's just not clear what each of their opinions were. But some of the military lawyers, including civilians and some in uniform, also expressed concerns, with those concerns being carried to senior officials and their commands at the Defense Department about the legality of the strikes. And all that coming out through this report. And this isn't the only place that this information has been reported. This is not right. And it isn't really clear, unless you're looking at it through the lens of dividing the world up into spheres of dominance. But otherwise, it doesn't really make much sense. And it isn't really clear what the U.S. might gain from this approach. This is like, what are they calling it? Gunboat diplomacy. And the U.S. tried stuff like this a long time ago, way before even World War II. And it really didn't work very well. So I don't think it'll work well now either. And this is about regime change. And I said that from the beginning, like from the very beginning, because it had regime change, the stink of it all over it. And it makes me wonder, because Trump has even acknowledged that they have CIA operatives inside Venezuela working this, that it makes me wonder how legitimate the claims about the drugs even are, especially in light of the fact that they're using the exact same arguments against Canada. And I know that those are exaggerated. They're ginned up. And heads out in the audience right now, a lot of you, your heads are blown up. No, Rick, it's true. It's true. No, it's not. It's not. There are some problems, but not to the degree that the Trump administration wants to make you believe. And you think that those influencers out there are all independent. No, they're not. They're bought and paid for. A lot of them. Most of them right now. And I've seen the evolution. Weird thing is, though, and I just thought of this. What's his name? Harrison Faulkner? Yeah, I think that's his name. Yeah. He posted some stuff here tonight that I found was like, wow. Like, here it is here. Oh, that doesn't jive. I think he's off the payroll. Because he started to talk like me. Starting to talk like me. Here, I'll show you the post. This echoes kind of what I'm saying. And I'm like, he's doing it because he has been sort of, he's a young guy, and he's been aligned with, you know, some of the alternative conservative side media, which is cool with me as long as you're telling the truth. But I've just seen so much lying happening on that side of the aisle that I'm revolted. I am like, I can't be part of that. That's not true. I'm a real conservative in the classical liberal sense. I told you he's a liberal. No, man, not like an L liberal, like the Liberal Party. You got to learn a little bit more about politics and educate yourself and find out what classical liberalism is. That's what free Western society is all about. That's what it was based on. That's what it continues to be based on. That's where you find actual freedom in its various flavors. Not through authoritarianism, not through neo-populism like the kind that Donald Trump practices, and not on the extreme on the other side either, through the the Marxist or the extreme socialism. You get to the extremes and you don't have freedom. You have authoritarianism. It's baked in. You got to get yourself back closer to the center. Where you give a little here, give a little there, and you give the power to the people, ultimately through democracy. And there you find freedom. Through individuality. Harrison Faulkner posting right here. The U.S. government will basically have a kill switch, he says, on Canadian F-35s and can ground them, withhold software upgrades, and withhold Canadian-made, American-owned parts. Canada would rightfully view this level of foreign control over Canadian military operations and assets at any other time, at any other time, as unacceptable. Now the ambassador, this Pete Hoekstra dude, is trying to extort our government into making this purchase. I'm like, did you really write that, Harrison? And indeed he did. It's on his X account. I'm like, dude, welcome to the bright side. Welcome to the light. That was refreshing. That sounds like a voice of reason. I get it. I've been saying that too. As much as like it could still make sense to buy the F-35, but it doesn't make any sense really if you're buying a weapon that another country can just flip a switch and you're done. Won't fly anymore. And if it does go up into the air, all your sensors, your guidance systems, your weapon systems will be rendered mute. What good is it? And then it just becomes a big paperweight. And this is a lot of what he's posting here tonight. This has a lot to do with the ambassador, Pete Hoekstra. Right here in National News Watch. Future of trade talks depends on Canada's purchase of American fighter jets, U.S. ambassador says. Okay. Really? Really? Okay, it makes me want to buy them even less. As a Canadian. Like, keep your jets. And the 16 that we've committed to, I don't know, we'll sell them to another country. You have no sovereignty if your military is neutered by the country that sells you the weapons to protect your sovereignty. You need to have full control. Okay, we'll take the Gripens. But they won't survive against the F-35s. Well, hopefully, we don't have to go to war with the United States. And why are we even talking about it? I don't know, maybe because the ambassador to Canada is acting like a jerk. He's a very obnoxious man. Is he doing it intentionally? Is he just like, does he work at it? Does he go home and practice being a jerk? Does Donald Trump call him up and give him orders? Okay, Pete, today you will insult the prime minister and tell Canada that they must do what we say or else. Yes, sir, Mr. President, sir. Fear. I will invoke the fear weapon today. We'll threaten and insult and berate. And I'll tell the world that Doug Ford is a goof and that the whole trade deal fell apart because he told the truth about he lied about Ronald Reagan. For crying out loud. Here, look. This is what he said. I think this was yesterday. I didn't get it because this at this manufacturing conference yesterday, we ran clips of Hoekstra, but I didn't have time to watch his entire speech because it happened just prior to air, and we did run some of this, but this is the clip that is really making the headlines.
Here, I'll just get myself in trouble.
No,
okay,
I can go.
But let me tell you, I mean, I go around the country and people will say, Pete, you just don't understand why we're so mad about the 51st state. It's kind of like, yeah, you're right, I don't. Okay?
Well,
and then I read, all I can say is to my Canadian friends is, you don't understand, because I read the media and I listen to other discussions, the president got mad about an ad. Well, I've been in this business for a while, and I know people who've been in it longer than I have. And I asked them, okay, the ad that was run by the government of Canada, oh, that's not the government of Canada, it's Ontario. It's kind of like, I'm sorry, we don't go through that, slicing and dicing, and it's kind of like, no one can ever remember a like circumstance where a foreign government came into the United States and, they were talking about $54 million of ads, American dollars, so real money. Just a joke, okay, lighten up.
That's the quote they're going to come in.
That's going to get me in trouble. Targeting the President of the United States and his policies 10 days before an election and a couple of weeks before a Supreme Court case would be heard in front of the Supreme Court. I'm sorry, that does not happen in the United States of America.
He's a diplomat. Yeah, it's real money. Canadian money is real money. It's respected and trusted around the world. And it's better money than the U.S. money because, we keep our interest rates adjusted so that it devalues the Canadian dollar to make our exports to the United States more affordable to you. But it's also a more trusted currency because of the way it's manufactured. It's almost impossible to counterfeit it because we've got probably the best mint in the world. It's real. That's why other countries come to Canada to get their money made too, which a lot of people don't know. There's a lot of things people don't know. A lot of things I don't know. A lot of things I've forgotten, but I won't forget that. And a lot of other people not forgetting either. They're taking note. This is a time that I think a lot of Canadians will not forget. And again, this really, it's unnecessary what Trump is doing. He's alienating his friends, his allies, the best friends the United States has ever had, probably the best relationships in human history, and he's driving a wedge in and destroying everything for nothing. And if you believe that there was an imminent deal that fell apart and didn't happen, and that the announcement was supposed to come this week, as Mr. Hoekstra, the diplomat, indicated, if it just fell apart because of Doug Ford, and that there was some, really sweet deal that was supposed to be announced this week, I've got swampland to sell you in Washington. Cheap. As a Canadian selling it. Look at the reaction to all of this going on social media. A lot of people are calling for this diplomat to be expelled from Canada. Got to get out. Kick him out of the country. Now, this is really, people are going to that length now. Raghu Venugopal, doctor. The U.S. ambassador couldn't say more stupid things if he tried. Trump 100% interfered in our Canadian election. True. I'm certain of that. Ontario just played Reagan's words right back at them. Hoekstra needs to be expelled. John Brennan. Pete Hoekstra, U.S. ambassador to Canada, is absolutely useless. The best thing he can do for Canada is to resign. He has lost all credibility with Canadians. Yeah, the sensible ones. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra. He posts, last night I welcomed an audience of more than 300 members and guests at the annual American Thanksgiving dinner, hosted by AmCham Toronto. This flagship event celebrates the enduring economic and cultural ties between the United States and Canada, bringing together leaders from both sides of the border. Thank you to my Canadian counterpart, Ambassador to the United States, Kristen Hillman, for joining and delivering remarks. Well, that's nice, Doc. If you could just do a little more of that, then we might get along a little bit better. Rod Mickelberg posts, fun fact, Pete Hoekstra, U.S. ambassador to Canada, who has launched foul-mouthed tirades against this country, was born in an area of Holland liberated by, drumroll please, Canadian soldiers, at a cost of 209 casualties, including 43 dead. And there is where he was born. Sort of a free person, because of Canadian soldiers paying the ultimate price. He kind of probably doesn't know that, does he? Sarah C. Don't know Sarah C., but Sarah C. says, recall this offensive man. This is no diplomat. Comes here thinking he can dictate to Canada without consequences. He can't. Go home, Hoekstra. So this is what your words have resulted in, Mr. Hoekstra. Hoekstra accuses Canada of meddling in U.S. politics, says restarting trade talks not going to be easy. U.S. envoy says Canada needs to seriously consider its approach. Yeah, it's not going to be easy because we don't trust you guys anymore. Ben O'Hara Byrne. Ambassador, foot firmly planted in mouth. Pete is back at it again. He should probably look at finding common ground with Canada, given his boss seems to be backpedaling on tariffs at a furious rate instead of moaning about the Ontario ad again. Yeah, get over the freaking ad. See, if Doug Ford had actually lied, I'd be, yeah, don't do that. I'd be 100% opposed to it. I'd be damn fuming mad as a Canadian, saying you can't do that. You can't use AI to attack the president. You can't lie about what Reagan said. If he had lied, I'd be on board with Mr. Hoekstra and Donald Trump. But Doug Ford didn't lie. Donald Trump's acting like a whiny little kid. And he's not a good diplomat. This is not diplomacy. Raghu Venugopal again. Hypocritical Hoekstra wants to harmonize on jets, but not on autos. It's not an American plane, it's an international plane. Same goes for the auto industry. That's true. Again, very valid point. That F-35 was not just an American venture. Canada was involved in that too. A lot of NATO countries invested in the development of the F-35. We have already investments in it in order to develop that fifth generation fighter. So you're welcome, United States and Donald Trump and Mr. Hoekstra. But we may not buy it now because you just want to take, I'm going to use this word, you want to steal our auto industry. That's what they're doing. We didn't steal it from you. We helped build the auto industry together, internationally, cross-border. From the very beginning, the infancy of the auto industry, the birth of the auto industry. Especially when we got the innovation of the development of the assembly line through Henry Ford. Ford City on the Windsor side, you had Ford on the Detroit side, and the rest, as they say, is history. But history is still being made. Oh, here's Nosferatu. That's the name of the account on X, saying, "Go fuck yourself. Get the fuck out of our country, you piece of shit freak." U.S. envoy warns Canada to seriously consider avoiding anti-tariff ads. Why don't you tell us how you really feel there, Nosferatu? And there's another one from Ragu. Pete Hoekstra has zero intention to build bridges between Canada and the U.S. His only goal is to insult, offend, disrupt, and to be obnoxious. He works for one person and is doing a perfect job. He relishes that we loathe him. Yeah. It's true. That's the strategy. He's doing it on purpose, you see. And here he is lying. I'm going to say it right out because I'm tired of the lies. I'm so tired of the lies. I'm just going to start calling them out, I guess, when I see them, because I'm certain this is just a lie to make Doug Ford and Canada look really stupid and bad. And it's not true. He's the one lying.
I'll just get myself in trouble.
No, okay,
go
ahead.
Known for speaking his mind, U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra lamented missing out on a Canada-U.S. free trade deal that he says was supposed to be announced this week.
BS.
The strategy was to put wins on the board. That was the strategy that the president and the prime minister agreed to.
You talked about strategies to getting talks restarted.
Hoekstra told Global News that approach nearly paid off, but unlike his boss,
hurt every American worker.
He was originally reluctant to blame the Ontario government anti-tariff ads.
And you agree with that we were really, really close?
I think we were very close, yeah.
And it was all Doug Ford. The Doug Ford ad ruined it?
I just, I'm not going to get into ascribing blame. Different people will do their own analysis.
But in the end, Hoekstra did give his own assessment, saying the ads attempted to interfere in U.S. politics and try and influence the Supreme Court case on tariffs and American midterm elections.
You do not come into America and start running political ads, government-funded political ads, and expect no consequences or reaction from the United States of America.
What do you think is going on up here? We've got all kinds of U.S. meddling on the Canadian side. $500 million slush fund being offered to separatists from the Trump administration. Separatists out in Alberta. Is that not foreign meddling? That's direct money meant to destabilize the country and break it up. How much more meddling? How it's clear. A public statement, or at least publicly stated by the separatists out in Alberta, saying that the United States, the Trump administration, is prepared to recognize Alberta as an independent country if they vote for separation. And with that, that is what is going to lead to real serious conflict in this country, because there's a lengthy process Alberta has to go through in order to achieve separation and become independent. It's not just one vote. It's a process. It's a series of events that have to take place, and it's a little bit complex. I won't get into it here tonight, but it's not just one vote. But it could be just one vote that makes it all happen, because the Trump administration is ready to recognize Alberta as a separate nation state. If Albertans vote to separate when they take that first vote. And that's one of the things they're being lied to. You see, they're being told by some political influencers, social media influencers, politicians, and political activists and separatists out in Alberta that you should just vote. You should vote yes for separation, not really to separate from Canada, but just so that you have leverage to get a better deal. So that makes some who might be reluctant to vote for separation, it makes them feel more at ease and more confident and not worry about voting for separation, thinking, yeah, we can just do this. And even if we vote for separation, it's not really going to happen. So there's no risk in this. But yes, there is. Way more risk than you think. Because if you vote for separation, thinking that it's just one step toward that, no, it's not. We've had so much U.S. meddling through the Trump administration in Canada that they're not going to give a damn about what our Constitution actually says, because they're going to say after that vote that this Constitution isn't worth the paper that it's written on, and they won't even tell you that it was written on paper. They're going to tell you it doesn't exist, and that Canada is not a real country anyway, and that the vote is binding, and that has to be respected, and that if you don't respect the vote and let Alberta leave, the United States will intervene, and they will, and they'll come up there, and they will enforce to the extreme level the separation of Alberta from Canada. That's the plan. Do you trust the plan? Because that's not how it works. But it's going to work that way if you vote to separate. Well, that's great, Rick, because we're getting a bum deal. You think you think it's just about you just selling everybody out for a tax break. And you're not going to be any better off because they're lying. They're lying to you all. And that I also find revolting. That is, if they were at least telling you the truth, I could respect the fact that you're going through it and honor and respect the process, because you're allowed to do it in Canada, even though it's treasonous. But this approach is going to lead to conflict, maybe even to war. You want blood? It's not hard to get it. So many of you do out there. That's why things don't feel right. You're all screwed up in the head, you people who want to fight. Calm the hell down. You're being lied to about a lot of things. People pointing their fingers at this group and that group. Oh, if we just deport all those people, problem solved. I agree. We have too much immigration. Too many people coming in too fast, can't handle it all. It's just happening too fast. I agree. You got to slow it down. But how you deal with this is important, because if you don't deal with it properly, you're going to do what Donald Trump is doing. You're just going to start rounding people up off the street and shipping them off to a gulag in El Salvador. No due process, no names, complete violation of rights, because he doesn't believe in your rights either. And that could happen here. But it's not going to solve anything. You think that the people telling you that it's all those people over there, they're the problem. If it just wasn't for them, you'd have a job. If it just wasn't for them, your kids would be educated differently and better, and you'd have better healthcare and better this and better that. Blame them. They're the problem. No, it's not true. Because as soon as those people are gone, you're just going to find other things to fight about. There's always fighting. There's always conflict. There's, especially in Canada and in the United States, a lot of it because of immigration. But immigration was happening long before the immigration we have now. And a lot of the old fights are still percolating away. The French and the English, they used to kill each other. Lots of battles between the French and the English. And what goes on today between Quebec and the rest of the country, like they fight, still fighting. That hasn't changed. Catholics and Protestants. Ford versus Chevy. Like, for crying out loud, there's always fighting. Always. It's not. And these people who are trying to tell you that the answer is to rise up and get rid of those people, rise up and get rid of those people. A lot of those people, they want to get rid of everybody else. That's a whole lot of people to get rid of. I don't know how you're planning on doing it, but I'll guarantee you this. The way I see, the approach that I see being offered has nothing to do with freedom and everything to do with authoritarianism. And they don't use the words, but they dance around it. Because they're lying to you. But a lot of you like the lie because they've pulled you so far down into the abyss that you're consumed by the darkness. And you've changed. And you're embracing it. A lot of people are embracing it. And it's becoming even popular. And it leads to a very bad place. And it comes, this tug of war, this conflict, it brews up on both sides, on all sides. Because there are bigoted people on that side, and there are bigoted people on the other side too. It's about hatred, anger, fear, prejudice, prejudging people. And therein is the problem. I didn't mean to get into this stuff tonight, but I'm just seeing it online. I even see people with a mustache, growing a mustache so they look more like the little man. I'm like, what the hell is going on? People have lost their minds because you're being fed a narrative. You're being fed political propaganda. They're getting you jacked up. So you rise up. It's dangerous. We've seen it before. Oh, yeah, we have. We've seen it before. Not in my lifetime. Not quite that old, but it's been there. And it's recorded history, and we'd be wise to learn from it. So that we don't just not repeat it, that we don't even rhyme it. Because there are other ways forward. And the solution to the problems isn't about skin color or religion or any of that. You know what? The real solution is exactly what we talk about here all the time. And it comes down to one word. Individualism. Judge me for what I do, for who I am. And there is the solution. Don't put me in with a group of people. Apply the laws equally across the board so that it's, the laws apply to everyone the same. Justice should be blind. But that's not what's been going on. And that gets people upset. And then instead of blaming those who abuse the system and holding them accountable legally and peacefully and properly and getting involved, no, you just continue to sort of outsource your political responsibilities and your community responsibilities, except to the degree that a lot of people like to go out there and cause a ruckus and protest and potentially get violent because they get you emotional about it and you don't know how to affect real change here because that's complicated. It seems like it's messy, but I'll tell you this, it's a hell of a lot easier to change that and the laws related to it, and a whole hell of a lot less painful, and there's a whole lot less blood spilled when you do it the Canadian way. Through cooperation, compromise, tolerance, and by respecting individual rights and freedoms. Just apply the laws, enforce them equally, evenly, without prejudice, blindly, so that everybody is treated the same, so that everybody gets due process as an individual, so that each case is handled on its own evidence. That's the solution. That's what we came up with as a society in the West long time ago. And we continue to refine that over time. But somehow we've lost sight of that, because there's always somebody out there who says, I have a better idea. But there's always somebody out there who's taking a little cash and pocketing it over here and then doing an end run around the rules over there. And not just the rules, but the standards, the ethics, the things that we aspire to as a society, as a free country. We need to get it back, but we're not going to get it back. Not this way. Not from what I'm seeing people getting involved in, because we're being sold a bill of goods and we've got way too much foreign influence in the country. Yes, some from China. Yes, some from Russia. It's there. And we talk about that. But the biggest threat right now is sitting in the White House. And it's coming from the ambassador of the United States to Canada. The threat is coming from him. He's the messenger. And it's coming in the form of insults and obnoxious behavior, which is something else that just, I find it disgusting, because that's what they've normalized, and they've said it's okay to be a dick. Whether it's the Tate brothers being disrespectful and acting like they own the freaking world and strutting around after going to the gym, I guess, and sucking on your hookah, acting like the big man when you're just a little boy. I don't respect that. That's not leadership. That's not a man. And that's what the Trump administration, that's what MAGA has deteriorated to. It's just rot. It's like, don't apologize for anything. Be the biggest dick you can be, or the biggest bigot. Be a great, big, giant, prejudicial piece of crap. And that's okay. Free speech, some people seem to think, is all about being belligerent and loud and shouting down opponents and using foul language and insulting people and being the biggest freaking racist you can possibly be. Thinking that that's going to get you what? Freedom? Just the opposite. There's no respect for individual rights and freedoms there, not through authoritarianism. And when you do that, when you embrace that kind of ideology, you're not going to get what you want. You think you're getting what you want because you're letting somebody in a position of power take it from somebody else. I got news for you. When you support that, they're taking it from you too. Taking it from all of us. And Donald Trump is more powerful. He has the authoritarian power, the unitary executive power, which I've discussed. I've talked about it. It's a real thing. Steve Bannon talks about it. He has that power in his Sharpie. And he knows it. And that's because he has come into office in Trump 2.0 with all the people around him with a plan, a legal plan, the tariff plan to do end runs around all of the other levels of government and bureaucracy that might stand in his way. And he has purged the opposition from the system. That Supreme Court ruling, that's deadly important to him and his administration because he needs the tariffs. That's the other reason he's pissed off about the ad. He couldn't have it because it was true. And that because it was true, because it's truth being spilled all over the place in defiance of his frickin' lies about tariffs and Ronald Reagan. It really does threaten his success in court. That ad was it was a linchpin in swaying opinion. Even at the Supreme Court level in the United States, it could destroy his whole tariff strategy. He knew it. That's why I got upset. All those social media influencers out there who immediately weighed in and started saying that Doug Ford was an idiot and Doug Ford lied and Doug Ford misrepresented, all those people, you want to know who's being paid off? Or do you want to know who is a propagandist? Do you want to know who is lying to you? Those people. All of them. The whole network weighed in. It was like, okay, cue the social media influencers. You have to back up Trump now. Then you could go down. I was like, holy crap. Like they're taking their masks off by doing this when that happened because he was desperate. Too much truth. So gotta lie about the truth. Gotta debunk the truth with lies. Made me nauseous watching it. My God, what has happened to democracy? What has happened to journalism? These are not journalists. This is not news that you're getting from these people. You're getting a story. You're getting influencers. They are influencers. They are there to influence you. I don't even know what the hell it is I'm doing here. I mean, I'm trying to practice a new form of journalism. I'm an old school journalist trying to bring old school ethics to bear on a new medium. And I sat here tonight before I came on and I thought to myself, what is the point? What's the point? Banned on Facebook. People get their heads blow up if I interview someone this person doesn't like. They think that I'm supporting that person because I'm talking to that person, because I'm talking to people on all sides. I'm giving all people a platform. Liberals won't talk to me at all because I talk to people who are conservatives, or I've even had, a guy on here who had a swastika on his flag and said, well, that's not a Nazi thing. And I've had communists on. I've had socialists on. I have everybody on. I talk to everybody so that we can get the full perspective, so that, hopefully some of them are acting in good faith. But I'm like, well, what is the point in this? This whole thing with that stupid farm, the lies. The lies. And I'm still getting messages from people upset with me because I'm literally just trying to convey facts, convey information, convey the truth, and call out the lies. But the lies are so thick, and it's all emotion based. And here I am talking about it again because it's the issue that isn't dead. It's not dying. They're keeping it alive. They're keeping the lies alive. And they're going to take, excuse me, the lies to an extreme through, escalating lawfare. I see where they're going with it, which is in itself a lie. It's not about having a constructive conversation or debate about whether the stamping out policy is right or wrong or effective, or if there's maybe a better approach to be had, but it's just lies. They just lie. Oh, the birds weren't injected with anything, we were told. After we were told that they were injected with things like COVID antigens. Oh, the birds were being killed by the CFIA in defiance of a Supreme Court of Canada court order before the call was approved by the Supreme Court, because ultimately it was the Supreme Court challenge was thrown out. No, they were doing it in advance, and they hiding it and taking the birds away in blue bins, and they had these brainwashed people chasing the bins down the highways. And then I see these influencers building huge numbers by saying that these lies are true. Like, really, I went back to review to make sure I wasn't like imagining something. No, there really are posts out there where they're saying the images of the birds in the bins, it's all true. Like, literally saying that it's all true. If that had been true, there wouldn't have been any birds to shoot. If they had really liquefied the carcasses on scene, there wouldn't have been any birds left to shoot, or very few. But then in the end, because they had to make it sound even more horrific than it was, they lie again about a lot of things, and then they focus on the number of shots that were fired. I don't know. Can you prove it? How many shots were fired? How did you count them? Did you record the whole thing? I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. Point is, they got their photo op, and they've got you all upset, and they've got me still talking about it. I'm tired of the whole thing. But it's not just that. It's all of it. It's the lies. Being lied to. Government does enough lying on its own. You don't need to be lying. I don't want to support somebody who lies to combat a lie, because that's just as bad. Maybe worse. I think it is in some ways even worse. The government doesn't lie to you about everything all the time. Sometimes they do. Tucker Carlson says everything they tell you is a lie. No, that's not true. Not everything. And not everything the independent people tell you is a lie. But of late, a lot of it's lying. Just straight up lies. I had a news director one time who said, you don't want to use that word because it's such a strong word. It's such a strong accusation to say that someone is lying. And I went out of my way for years and years and years and years and years to never use the word lie, to accuse someone of lying. They have an opinion, a different take on a fact, or whatever you're presenting people. But back in those days, I think there was just more respect for truth. Or maybe just less intent to really twist the facts in order to affect a lie. And I, as a journalist, as somebody who, I literally got into journalism because I truly believed as a young person that journalism represented a cornerstone of democracy and that it was vital for a free society. So I decided I was going to devote my life to that as a career because it was a noble thing to do. And it was a good way to serve my country, but more than that, to serve freedom in a greater sense, to fight for that. And I did. I thought, to only get to this. They're tearing it all down. And then they complain and say, well, the other side's lying and they're not respecting our monuments and, they're tearing down our like all whatever arguments you're making. But then you turn around and you lie too. And I keep saying you don't need to lie. The truth is bad enough. We've got a lot of things we need to fix in the country, folks. But you're not going to fix anything if you follow the people who are lying to you. And you're sure as hell not going to fix Canada by breaking it apart. And why the hell do I hear some of these people out there in Alberta saying they want people in the East to suffer? What kind of sadistic talk is that? Certainly not very Canadian. Sounds kind of American in a way to me, at least the current incarnation of America, because the America we have right now with Mr. Trump in the White House and all those MAGA-ites around him, such as they are today, not Trump 1.0, Trump 2.0, that ain't no shining city on a hill, folks. You know, a bully goes around and picks on weaker people. A bully will even go around and beat up a friend to take their lunch money. I thought we were friends. We were, still are, still should be. But this isn't how you treat a friend, even a relative, because we are. We're tied together, but we're not American. And we are a real country. Coming back to Reagan. Oh, remember Reagan? 1987, he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he talked about what it would take to bring the world together for a common cause, to work in peace, and that to him, he suggested at the time that what it might take is visitors from another planet coming here to invade. And then we would have a common cause to rise up against that as humans. Strangely, that really reinforces what I said earlier, which is that even if you got rid of all the people that you think you don't like because somebody told you you shouldn't like them, there's still going to be fighting going on because people will find something to fight about. They always do. It's going to go back to, I don't know, people picking on the Italians or people picking on the Polish people because they're different than you. It's not the path forward. That's not the answer. It's pretty simple. So simple to me, anyway. God-given rights, protected but limited by the Constitution, limited so that everyone's rights are protected for people, humans. Respecting the rule of law, and in a very simplified form here tonight, respecting individuality. So that the state works for us. The state is there to protect our rights, not to give them to us. Judge me for who I am. Judge you for who you are. Judge you for what you do as an individual. I don't care about your religion. I don't care about your skin color. I don't care even what language you speak. There can be laws about some of those things, and they should be applied equally. And we as a society come up with those laws, and you just apply them evenly. And we have the processes, we have the system in place to do it. All we have to do is use it properly and make sure that those who administer the system are administering it properly. And hold the politicians accountable on that front. But the key, again, individual rights and freedoms. And I'm hoping that tomorrow night I have the War of the Worlds production done. I'm very, very close. I've pulled 2 all-nighters already this week to try and get that darn thing done. It's a lot of post-production. And ironically, here I am talking about Reagan and his references to aliens, and it's right in there for tomorrow night. It's part of it. So, War of the Worlds, the musical. It's some of the stuff. To me, it's cracking me up. It's fun, and you guys are part of it. And I hope you all join me back here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the big, bad Mars invasion. War of the Worlds. Catch you then. Love you guys on the flip side.
He's got a plan, it's bold and grand, taking over land, sea and sand. Canada's ours, Greenland's in the mix, the Panama Canal's just another fix. But Mars, oh Mars, you pesky red sphere, your spying drones are making it clear. It's a threat to Earth, a cosmic sin, but don't worry folks, he'll make Mars great again. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. We'll impose sanctions, taxes, and fines. Martian exports know they're crossing the line. The Martians cry foul, but Trump doesn't care. He'll build a space wall floating up there. Elon's on board with rockets ablaze. The stock market's loving this Martian craze. He says, trust me folks, I know the deal. Martian gold is ours, this plan is real. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. Yeah, Mars hotels with golf resorts, intergalactic trade reports, a MAGA dome where Martians bow. We've got the best Martians, Trump says now. Fake news claims the plan's absurd, but Trump tweets back, it's the final word. Martian drones not on my watch. Space Force ready to kick it up a notch. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say can you see, he'll make Mars great again. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say, can you see? He'll make Mars great again.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.